All right, guys, this is the one where we talk to Jared Schutz at Red Door Realty, and we're going to discuss lots of mistakes and ideas for real estate agents to grow their business. Jared, how's it going this morning?
Hey, Anna, it's so great to see you. Thank you for inviting me to do this. I think that this is such a great idea. And the more information that we share is just going to be better for everybody. So,
Yes, a rising tide, what brings up all boats or something like that, right?
something like that. Yeah.
So really into myself, and I know for sure for you too, educating the real estate community so that way we can all, grow and do better and reach our goals, right? So talk to me. One of the things that I see all the time, and I think you might have some ideas on, are where do you see your everyday or even superstar real estate agents wasting their time?
Mm, that's a great question. I think that a lot of agents, when they come to us for coaching, a lot of times they're trying to cut out the things in their calendar, in the habits that they've created that are going to free up more space for them to do those high payoff activities.
Yeah.
I think that when we coach people, we really try to simplify it, and we ask them, what are some things that you can take out of your daily routine that will free you up to do only the things that you can do.
Right. Talk to us a little bit about what you think the high payoff items are for real estate agents, because interestingly, there's a list every agent or loan officer does every day. And some of those things I find myself thinking, why am I doing this? I definitely have a teammate that should be doing this. So talk to me about what you think those high payoff items are, what they should focus on.
Well, if you really look at your business, I think our business parallel very well, where a lot of the things that you do, there are a lot of things that we do as well. But if there's only something that you can do, so whether it's writing a contract, it's meeting with clients, it's the phone conversations that you're having, a lot of it's prospecting. But another thing that's really a key element with this, and I think it's the lifeblood of someone's success in real estate, in both lending and in real estate, is the additions to database. It's, only you can meet somebody and only you have that opportunity to build the rapport. So it's so important that you're focusing your time and you're in situations where you're able to do that.
Absolutely. And since we're talking about database, it's one of my favorite things to talk about too. And I think that, well, your typical real estate agent hears, anything kind of structural and, not so sexy or flashy. They hear database and they're like, "Whoa," right? That's your typical agent's response to that. But I would argue that your database is the number one most important thing, but not just having a database, but like continually interacting with that database and keeping that database up to date, right? So what are some things that you could kind of relay to our audience today that you do or you coach people to do with interacting with that database?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that I love about your story, Anna, is that you came here and you didn't really know a lot of people, and you grew your database, and you grew it so well, but you also nurtured it. It wasn't just a mile wide; it was a mile deep. And I think with agents, sometimes they feel, oh, I don't know enough people to be in real estate, or I don't know enough people to build this business. Your database is your foundation. They're your tribe. They're the people that care about you. Those past customers that you treat really well and you get back in touch with and you stay in touch with, those are the ones that are going to support your business for the long run. Because it's a lot easier to have 10 incoming calls where people want to buy or sell real estate versus have to call like 100 people to find a couple people, and it's such a cold call. So a lot of people, they buy Zillow leads, they buy all these leads, and those people, they're not as deep of a relationship that you can do.
Absolutely. And I'll see people, that do call days, and I have a lot of respect for someone that wants to make, 100 calls in a day, or, that's a grind, and that's, worth saying kudos to you. That's awesome. And in addition to that outreach, if you take care of your people and you're, keeping your COI together, then you may not have to do those 100 calls, or you can do those 100 calls in addition to doing, $30 million in business a year, right? So,
Yeah. And you know what? If you make it fun, it just propels the whole thing. I
right.
mean, if you send like a quick video to somebody and just wish them a happy birthday, after you initially deposit the seed of like, hey, I'm already in real estate, and like you'll let that grow kind of thing. Then when you contact them, you can contact them about their kid graduating college, or
Mhm.
their new puppy, or all those fun things. So if you make it really fun in video, people love to see
Love it.
videos. They love to see your face, right?
That's why we're on
It's
this
huge.
video today, right?
That's
It's
right.
a way to touch both of our databases and educate, kind of like edu marketing, right? So,
Mhm.
okay, so agree on the database being a whole awesome thing, interacting with it, emails, birthday calls, birthday videos, anniversaries, all that jazz, keeping notes on, the dogs' names, kids' names, etc. Where would you say is the top thing that agents waste their time on? I'd love to hear yours, because then I'm gonna share mine.
Yeah, yeah. I think that so many agents, they don't they're they don't see it as a numbers.
Mhm.
They sit down in the morning, they could spend an entire day, and if I ask them at the end of the day, how many conversations did you have?
Yep.
And they'll say like, well, I talked to one person, or I talked to the person that I'm currently selling. So I think that a lot of people, they do all these things where they're not actually having conversations and talking to people and adding people to their database, and that's really not good. They
Right.
spend, and they also don't delegate, like hiring a professional company to edit your videos,
Mhm.
to do your database, to even like set up your drip campaigns, and your newsletters and stuff, printing things off. Too many agents are doing that stuff when, number one, they're not the best at it. Number two, they can be doing other stuff.
Right. I would hear, I obviously, maybe it's not obvious to our viewers, but I spend a lot of time having conversations with agents, brokers, people in the real estate industry, other loan officers, etc. And I'll hear a lot of times, and even sometimes for myself, man, I worked so hard today. Like, oh, I worked so hard today. And I'll be like, oh, okay, what did you do? And they're like, oh, I went to inspections, I had to fix a listing sign, I was putting out fires on, transactions, and catching up with lenders to make sure a mortgage commitment was in. Obviously, those people aren't working with me because the mortgage commitment's done so fast over here. But humble brag, humble brag. And I'm like, well, that's not working. And they'll look at me like I'm out of my absolute mind. The
Mhm.
only thing in this business that's really working is generating leads, like you're saying, conversations, right? How did you spend time generating leads today? Because if you didn't spend at least 2 hours lead gen today, direct lead gen, you didn't work today. That's in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I learned the hard way. I got to the office before everybody, and I left, after everybody.
Mhm.
And one day, my manager brought me in, and this was like 20 years ago. And she's like, Jared, she's like, I think you should get out of the real estate business. And I had given up a career in architecture and engineering. She's like, because what I was doing is I was just doing busy work.
Right.
I was making maps of all the different areas in the area. I was setting everything up. I was so organized with all the stuff, but I wasn't making those contacts. I wasn't creating a database, nurturing it, and finding new people. And I think that a lot of agents, especially newer agents that are looking to get in the business, they really need to start to work on that foundation.
Heck yeah. That lead gen, if you're not generating leads, you ain't working. And I mean, you should see the people that, when I say, oh, that's not working. I was on 3 inspections today. What do you mean? I'm like, well, did any of those inspections generate you new business? Because a lot of agents I also see, and I'm sure you see, will do a bunch of business and then have nothing to do because they're not spinning both the lead gen plate and the managing the business at the same time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we kind of like jumped in because well, probably are both of our personality types, and started talking about helping other agents. But why don't you give me like the brief story about Jared and Red Door, and talk to me. Tell our millions of viewers here a little bit about you.
Oh, well, thank you. I got in the business a long time ago. back in 2004, and was doing real estate investing before that. I think that real estate was very intriguing to me, not only because of the investment side of things, but it also it puts us in a position to help other people.
Mhm.
And I think that if you really look at it, why do people, pick their lenders? Why do they pick their realtors? It's because of those relationships. And as I started to grow and learn some things the hard way, then all of a sudden I built really, really strong relationships with people wanted to do business with me.
Mhm.
And then I started to realize that I had to delegate, and I decided to start my own company. So we started Red Door Realty. I've been in business for over 10 years, and we partner with great business affiliates like Anna Smith and, good attorneys and inspectors. And then we all work together to create this really great experience for our clients.
Awesome. I love it. Why did you switch from architecture and engineering to real estate? Like what was the catalyst that caused that change?
That's a great question. It was very hard to comprehend for my parents, at least, because they were like, it's such a solid thing. Is it architecture? I was working for an architect at the time, but the thing was, Anna, is that like it excited me. Like I jumped out of bed in the morning because I was just excited about the concept of buying assets and helping other people make money and to be able to create deal. And there's no ceiling. It's a job where with a certain job you have a ceiling, you have a salary, you have a base. You can only make so much. You're really trading time for money. But once you're able to level up a real estate career, all of a sudden you can leverage your time. You can recognize what are some of those things that only you can do, and then all of a sudden you can really increase your ceiling.
That's awesome. This is some great stuff for the audience today.
So Anna, I have a question for you. You get to meet a lot of different real estate agents,
Mhm.
and you've seen the ones that have been successful and the ones that haven't. What are some things that you've seen that lenders and realtors that have done, some of the habits that you've seen them demonstrate that helps them not only do well, but also propel them into next level success?
Absolutely. So, aside from what we already touched on, which is realizing that this business is a lead generation business. So, aside from realizing that and focusing on that, I think one of the most important things that an agent or a lender can do for themselves is to hire themselves an individual coach. Make sure that you have someone that is both pushing you and helping to inspire you to continue to go for that next level. When I first started in the business about 8 years ago now, I was putting my business coach's fee on one credit card and then splitting it on another credit card because they were both like maxed out. And I was like, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. And that's probably the best money I've ever spent is, establishing a relationship with the right coach and allowing her to teach me and not just continue to do things my way. Right. So she taught me things like keeping track of my numbers, how to make sure that I was getting the most bang for my energy, if you will. Like if I was going out and I was going to go to all these events, well, how are you going to move that forward? Down to, little things like scripts and how to phrase things. I rode racehorses before this, man. So like you can't just say, giddy up, let's do the loan. Like that's not going to work. So helping me to just even formulate some of my emails, text messages and things, huge. So getting a coach, I think is a great thing. You mentioned that your office does a lot of coaching with your agents. I think that's huge. And then another thing that I think people have, done to propel themselves, forward and become more successful is to systematize their business. And it's a lot like that database, your typical real estate agent hears systems and they're like, I don't want to do that. But a system will set you free. Instead of having everything you do in your brain, having everything in a checklist. So as your team grows, you can replicate yourself, right? You can delegate, as you were saying. So those are two things that I would say. What about for you?
That's great. Yeah, great answer. I think that's important. And speaking of coaching too, coaching is so important. And if you partner with a lender or a company or a coach that where your weaknesses are their strengths, sometimes they can kind of like get you out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I had this one coach where she made me set my alarm every 15 minutes. And I had to quickly write down everything that I've been doing. And I did it for 2 weeks, and it was really kind of like annoying, you know?
Right.
But what happened was a high-end, you know, attorneys do this, and they can go back and they can find those things that they're doing that they shouldn't really be doing. Or, you know, how they can be more productive, and then create those systems that you're talking about.
Absolutely. I love it. Those are great, great answers.